You have to allow your body to repair itself. You have to be patient and just respect your body because it's going to carry you through life.
What is up, my man?
Hey, happy Thursday. It's February 27th. The year is 2020. This is the Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 351. Welcome aboard. It's a beautiful sunny day in Chattanooga. And I imagine it's somewhat close to the same where you are in Nashville.
Oh, I can't tell. I'm
You're still
behind
in
the blinds. I'm in the
I was
basement.
gonna say you're in the basement. Probably got your your Hefner robe on. You're sipping some hot tea. You're ready to roll.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what I figured, man. But hey, welcome. If it's your first time listening, we appreciate you joining us. I'm Coach Robbie. That is Mike. And we are your hosts for today. And as always, we come to you twice a week, traditionally Mondays and Thursdays. We've been doing this for 3 years. 350 now podcasts deep. Go back, check out the archives. We cover a very wide variety of topics from all things related to triathlon, racing, training, nutrition, everything in between. And then we also cover a lot of life and how triathlon and life intersect, how they complement each other, and how sometimes they just flat out don't, and the ways that we can do to help navigate that journey. And if we can do anything that's to help you stay on that journey and make it sustainable and have a happy and healthy triathlon experience, then we'll have considered what we have done today and what we've done in the past a success. So we appreciate you listening. And hey, this is an open style conversational format. You don't expect any ads or sponsors or plugs. We just do our best to have an open dialogue and take the conversation where it may go.
Right, and who knows where it's going, right? We've been
Actually have a schedule today.
oh, good. So do I, but I think
Oh,
mine's a
you
little
do?
bit too. I do. I was kind of prodding around with some ideas here, based on my meditation group. The talk this guy gave. I think it's really applicable to training. It's sort of this 5-way path kind of thing. But I don't want to just spring it on you.
Yeah,
I think it would.
that sounds a little bit too deep.
Although I
Generally
think you
chest
could really
guy.
roll. It might be a fun experiment, but I think if you've got something, I'm open to the world, man.
Yeah, well, that's very meditative of you. You seem very zen today, so I'm just going to take advantage of it and
Yeah,
go with my topics,
push me
and we
to the
can.
corner, man, and I'll be
Yeah,
fine.
because yours sounds pretty deep, and I think I'm on a more superficial level today.
Oh, okay.
Usually I can definitely dive deep, as we all know. But I even wrote this down, like in like on a legal pad. But
Oh,
the past few days, I've had a couple, not a lot, a couple inquiries from athletes that I work with, just kind of having an open dialogue in Training Peaks or an email and text forum about just, how do we improve? How can I do better? Because we're always after, and that's why a lot of people listen to podcasts. They want to get better. They want to find the secret sauce. They want to figure out the 10 ways to get faster, or the easiest way to go longer and with less training. And what I found is that there's so many opportunities that we all have each day to improve on ourselves, both as and these things go together, both as as triathletes and also as humans. Like I had just a person who's on this planet, trying to live life the best they could. And I was having one conversation with an athlete who is struggling with just day-to-day fueling, because a lot of, I mean, you and I are fairly lucky. We work, you and I work together. We have a somewhat flexible schedule, so fueling and sleep can sometimes be easier if we choose to make it. And a lot of people don't have that luxury. They have really demanding jobs. They don't have set lunch breaks. They travel a lot, which makes fueling even different. You're sleeping in a different hotel every 3 nights. It makes a lot of things hard. And so I wrote down 6 things that could be the reason why you're not experiencing the improvements or the performance or the gains that you might think you should have reached already. And most of them are fairly obvious, because I think, like, listen, like I had an athlete, Sean, who was texting me yesterday just about general benefits of organizing his life in a much more healthy and beneficial way. And as we do that with triathlon, it mirrors life and they complement each other, but they can also take away from each other because triathlon is a hobby and we put our physical stress towards triathlon and its training, but then the emotional and mental stress of life, personal, professional, they oftentimes take up more stress in our day than training. You go out for a 45-minute run and you do it very easy. That's minimal to no stress. And then you come home to, a sick kid and you still have to make, fit in 12 hours of work and you're working a deadline. That's massive stress. But they all total up at the end of the day to equal out how your day went. And so the first one, I got 6.
Okay.
The first one
I only had 5.
that could be hey,
But you know what? I think
more's
my
not
5
always
might be
better.
I think 5 might be a great this supplement to what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So we're
well,
on the
see,
same page
we're on the
again
same
here a little bit.
page as usual. But my first one, and then again, these are 6 ways that I can think of top of my head that are some of the reasons why you're probably not improving as fast or as much as you could be, or you've kind of become stagnant. And the first one is right in your wheelhouse, baby. The first one is sleep.
Hmm.
Sleep is the biggest performance enhancer that most people just frankly straight up neglect. That for no other reason than just and this sounds odd, but just straight up laziness. And I know that sounds weird to say people are lazy about sleep or think, oh well, no, it's not. You sleep more and you would be more lazy. No, people just stay up later because they can. They don't think of sleep as a way to rejuvenate your body, a way for your body to repair itself, a way for your mind to sort through how the day has gone and to work through those things and then wake up the next day feeling rejuvenated. Sleep is when your body heals itself. It doesn't heal itself while you're staying up, till 1 o'clock in the morning watching endless YouTube videos, and now you're going to wake up the next day and go on 5 hours of sleep. One of the biggest performance gains, the easiest one, the free one, the one that's gonna impact not just your triathlon training but your life in general, is sleep. And for a lot of people, that means I've had multiple conversations this week alone about athletes just separating their screen time and how they're focusing on, the last thing you do before you go to bed is watch, an hour and a half of Netflix when your room's, pitch black and you're staring at a computer screen 2 inches from your face watching, God knows what. And
Narcos.
right, Narcos,
That's
season.
not good. I just did that.
Yeah, it's not
I'm
good.
the
So
I'm the poster child for that example.
yeah, so if you find yourself sleeping less than 7 hours a night, and you could make that difference, so you could use time management. You could just go to sleep when you need to go to sleep. I've learned this lesson I don't want to say the hard way, but the way that has been forced upon us with a toddler is when you can sleep, baby, you sleep. And because you never know what's going to happen, especially when you have like a young kid. So sleep is the number one. If you were neglecting it, if you were just not paying attention to it, sleeping more is and I think it's like the easiest and it's like the most important one. And to get back to performing better, handling more load, recovering faster, and generally just being a better all human for most people.
Yeah. So, but that's not that simple. I mean, it is the easiest one. I agree with you 100%. Obviously, I'm a sleep believer from to the core. I actually I've listened to many podcasts, and one was by a guy who wrote a book about sleep, and he was talking about how when it's daylight savings time, which one goes when you lose an hour of sleep, that actually does like sickness increases and murders increase
Ooh.
because it's just like a stat, So if you need proof, there's kind of there's something concrete there, but I totally agree with you because, but the trouble I have, man, it's like if you get in a bad cycle of sleep, like I have been or can be, the you start kind of wiring up a little bit at night too, and then but you're right, it's like how do you avoid? Well, I'm kind of jacked right now. I feel like doing something and or watching Narcos Mexico, which I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen it, but it is pretty good.
No, I've seen the first one. I haven't seen this next season because I'm too
It's
busy trying to sleep,
way
dude.
better. It's way better. But
Okay.
but yeah, all right. I'm not arguing with you here.
Well, okay. So a lot of people are gonna say, I don't have that kind of time, and I get that, in terms of maybe you just don't have the kind of opportunity, or you work long hours, but there are always ways to do better in terms of how we manage our day. how we prioritize what's most important. And if you go down your list of the things I have to get done today and that I want to get done, and then you focus on those that have, for a lot of people, just flat out wasting time by doing other things, you can probably get done with things a lot quicker. And then prioritize people saying, I need this sleep because getting better, getting faster, being able to go longer, improving as an athlete, like it's all and this list is all about just paying attention to some of the finer details, which is what really separates the athletes who really consistently stay on a trend going upward and athletes who burn out or hit a wall and just hit like a flat line. They see no more form. It's about the small things. It's not about, yes, it's about being consistent and working hard and having the right training and having the right focus and being supported and doing all those small things, but it's also just about the small things. And you could probably go around the room and ask like, hey, would you love to have this life, or would you love to have this kind of position at your job, or perfect? And then you're like, okay, well, you can do 80%. You're already doing 80% of it, but it's the 20% that's going to set you apart to allow this to happen. Most people are going to be like, okay, you know what? It's probably not worth it. People who are really high performers, they're always willing to do the small and what most people think as just insignificant or not as important or things that I can neglect or things that I can ignore. They they do all those things. They address all those things. They pay attention to all those things. They are all about the smaller, finer details that most of you or most of us wash over because I just don't have the time, or that I'm not going to get a big return on investment for that. So you just don't get there. And then you see a person who's really, really successful and you ask them what they do and they're, oh, well, okay, I could do that. I didn't think it was that important. But when you're looking at trying to get better, trying to improve, and how difficult triathlon is already, you can't just take those small details or in those what I consider advantages for granted. And the next one is just how you eat from the time you wake up, from the time you go to bed. The more athletes that I ask this, and more athletes that I work with, are absolutely horrid at just straight up day-to-day fueling. Most athletes, and this is a trend that I've seen over the last 10 years that has gotten worse, is a lot of athletes, and I respect and I'm sensitive to the fact we've covered this before on maybe 20 podcasts ago about nutrition and body image. Again, I respect and I am sensitive to the fact that there are a lot of underlying issues with people and food. I think we all have a different relationship with food, and that is triggered or caused by all different kinds of things. I understand that. But for a lot of athletes, they see the least amount of food I can take in, the better. Not just from a performance standpoint, because I don't want to, weigh as much or, rely on fuel, but from a physical appearance standpoint, that I need to be skinnier to perform better. And in the entire time I've been coaching, I've seen more athletes hurt themselves from basically ignoring nutrition in a way to where they don't eat enough and they don't feel enough, or when they do, they basically put in their body trash. It might be filling, but what they're doing is they're filling up a car and you're filling up, it's a 20-gallon tank and you're filling up 16 gallons of water and 4 gallons of gasoline. You're going to get a full tank, but it's going to perform like crap. And one of the biggest things you can do to help you improve outside of sleep, the next one is just day-to-day fueling. Eating smart, eating better, whatever that looks like for you. Everyone has different goals. Everyone has, I think, different tendencies to want to gravitate towards a specific, you know, dietary combo, wherever you want to look at it. Just day-to-day fueling, just how you eat for life. If you pay attention to that and understand, all right, maybe eating this here probably wasn't the best idea, or maybe not eating enough and giving my body the nutrients to repair itself and to have energy is actually impairing my ability to improve and do better. And so I think that yeah, it's something that I think is fairly simple in terms of just paying attention because it's hard. Like I say it's easy, but it's one of those harder, finer details because for most people it takes more time, it takes more preparation, it takes more time out of your day. But if you want to see performance gains, if you want to be able to do this and feel better, recover better, and have better energy, and be able to do the things you want to do, then you have to eat the way in a way that is fueling your body, not starving your body or not filling it with straight crap and expecting it to run like an Indy 500 race car when you're treating it like a beat up Pinto.
Mm. Well, I mean, these two tie together. I've always known that, like, if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to be behind the eight ball. So you're going to always reach for cheap foods, quick energy, and things
Mm.
like that. That snowball on top of each other. I mean, people have over the years kind of asked me, like my amateur bachelor advice on
My
weight,
amateur bachelor advice.
and
Hey, there's a market for that, man. Don't shrug it off.
but yeah, like on weight loss and stuff like that. I rarely comment on that, but a lot of times I'll talk to, there's a professionals or people that are on the go a lot and doing a lot of stuff, and I'll be like, well, how much do you sleep? And they say, well, not 4 or 5 hours, or 6 or whatever. And I'm like, well, I think the thing to do is get more sleep, first of all, because most of the people that I will ask about this are those kind of people that wake up and start, just plowing down ho-hos or some kind of, donut, or that they start that way. And to me, that's the whole thing, right? Is how do you start it? Because that kind of kicks in, and I don't understand the physics and this, I mean, the science of, like, you know, insulin and all that kind of thing. But if you wake up tired and kickstart it with a bunch of sugar, I think that sets the tone. And then it's really hard to get out of that cycle throughout the day because you're up and down and up and down, and you kind of just keep repeating the same thing to dig out of the same types of holes. So I don't know what the answer is on that as far as like breakfast, if it's a,
Yes, you do. It
well,
doesn't take a scientist to figure out what makes you feel like shit. Like, I think sometimes we use that as a cop. I just don't really have the time to really dig into that. I'm like, dude, you know what makes you feel better? When you sleep more. You know what's going to make you feel better? Eating a well-balanced breakfast and not 2 bowls of Lucky Charms. Like, no one needs a degree to acknowledge and understand what's going to make you feel better for the long haul and the whole day than that. Like, it doesn't take a rocket science. It's one of those things like, oh, if I look back in my past history, when I feel the best, it's when I fuel myself appropriately, not when I eat haphazardly and lazy, because I just take what's quick and easy. It takes preparation, it takes focus, it takes getting yourself on some kind of if you can, on a schedule to set yourself up for success. Getting in bed earlier, shutting off your screen, therefore sleeping better. Prepping your meals, having something on hand that you know is going to be good for you, and knowing what you're eating in advance. Like, set yourself up for success. Every athlete is so obsessed with what's in their training peaks and doing that 45 minutes or that 90 minutes perfect. And then the other 22 and a half hours of the day, you're just lazy about details. So you tell me what's going to weigh out the other. Is it going to be those 90 minutes that you had to nail your workout and you had to get it even though you were exhausted and even though you were under fueled, and then the rest of the day, like you said, you ate ho-hos, a hot pocket from the Exxon station when you filled up your tank with gas, and then late at night you didn't have anything but two turkey wrapped roll-ups with a side of chocolate chips. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that that's not likely going to be your best, maybe unless you're Ben Grenfield, and that's not going to be your best situation for success. Like, those things are common sense, and we overcomplicate it to where, oh, well, I have to have the no. It start off just by making better decisions and paying more attention to the easier details.
you don't have to be a scientist. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, we all
Well,
don't.
I mean,
But I mean, it's just like so much of this is common sense. We
I
just
know that's what
it's
I, that's what the science drives me crazy. We already
well,
know the answers.
well, a lot
You
of
know what you're
science is
for.
propaganda. I mean, that's just how it is. But yeah, you know what's good, you know what's bad, you know what's lazy and what's not. And I think a lot of it is in food especially, like I said, like it's about your relationship with food and how you are willing to look at it and why you're eating, what you're eating, when you're eating. Like,
Yeah.
if you could just list if you could answer those questions every time you picked up a piece of food, every time before you picked it up, and you were required to say, why am I eating this, and when am I eating this, and then why am I eating it? If you had to answer those, then I think you would make better choices, or you would figure out the why you've gone down the avenue you have about eating the wrong things at the wrong times too frequently. Like those things are all obvious, but I think it'd be a good exercise. Like if you picked up this, all right, why am I eating this now? Or when am I eating this? The time of day, and then why am I eating this? I'm eating it to fuel my body because it's good. It's got lots of vegetables, fruits. It's got lean protein or whatever it is that the diet regime you're on or the way you eat. This is exactly why I'm eating it. But if it's a hot pocket from Exxon, your first answer is going to be, well, I didn't prepare very well today, even though I could have. I decided to stay up late watching 4 episodes of Narcos, so I didn't get enough sleep. What I could have been doing is I could have used that first hour to prep for the next day to make sure I had lunch to take with me, and then I could have got an hour and a half more sleep. And if that was the case, I probably could have gotten up a little bit earlier, felt more rest, already gotten gas, and I'd be in my office right now eating a well-balanced meal for lunch. Instead, I'm sitting at the hot pocket. It's gonna be frozen in the middle, and I might grab an airhead and a slushy on the way out, and then my whole day's ruined.
Yeah. But I mean, it does sound easy, but I think breaking the cycle is the hard part, right? Because it really comes down to suffering in a way. If you wake up tired and you can't get out of that funk, and you got the whole day ahead of you, the the short short-term person inside you is going to be like, man, I need sugar right now, or I'm not going to, But I'm just saying,
No, dude, that is such a great um, view, or I don't know, that is a great part of that to bring up in terms of, misery loves company. And when you wake up feeling miserable or feeling bad, you're going to fuel your body with things that reciprocate that feeling. Nobody's ever said, I was just having a really bad day today. I didn't have a lot of sleep. So, you know what? I went to Whole Foods and I grabbed some lean tuna and an avocado and some kale. No.
yeah,
They're like, dude, I rolled up to the ice cream shop. I got 4 double scoops of chocolate chip and then I chased it, with a bag of mayo. Like, no, that's what people do. Misery loves company and people use food as company so many times. It's an emotional connection that people have with food that makes, because that's the whole experience thing about people go out to eat for experiences. They can make this at home a lot of times probably better than they're made it, but somebody's making it for you and it's about the experience. So there's just really odd relationship that we all have with food and where we eat it and why we eat it and what that makes us feel. And but you're so right. Like when you wake up feeling like crap, what you're more than likely going to do to continue that vicious cycle is I'm gonna eat crap. And you're gonna eat crap all day because we all get stuck in these cycles. Like, you wake up, you feel bad, so you eat bad, so you feel worse, so you stay up late because you can't sleep because you just kind of blah, and then you wake up again and hey, I'm going to participate in the exact same cycle I just participated in yesterday, even though I know the outcome. I'm just going to keep doing it because, like you said, breaking habits and creating new behaviors is really, really difficult.
what's number 3, man?
Not And again, they all kind of it's kind of like a cascade effect. Not listening to your, oh no, sorry. This one is you're going too hard too often. This is one that I see so many times from many athletes. Either when I start working with them or the questions they have is that you go too hard too often, and what you're doing is you're just tapping into your reserve. You're not expanding it. That's one of the biggest myths. I have to go fast in every workout in order to get faster. Well, that's just burning your biscuits 24/7 and not choosing to bake an entire pantry. That's what happens. And you see athletes do this all the time. They dig themselves in these holes. They go too hard. They let other things get in there, like mentally. It's a mental thing for most people. I just had to go fast today. No, that's not right. Your body didn't say, "Hey, man," it didn't just like without your conscious control. Your body didn't just like raise its hand and say, "Hey, Robbie, I really got to go fast today. So can you please govern me in a way that makes..." No, it never happens that way. Your mind, your ego, your insecurities, your feelings of being inadequate or not getting fast enough tell you, I gotta go fast today, man. I have to go fast. No, you don't. You just do those to fulfill those needs, those feelings, and those emotions. But going and that's so if you're listening and you find yourself going way too hard, too often, and that for many athletes, that's their gap from frequency and consistency is I'd rather run 2 days a week and I'm gonna run a track Tuesday and tempo Thursday, but that's it, baby. That's all I need, baby. I got speed. And then you see a person who runs like maybe one fairly hard session a week, or maybe even two, but they're also running 4 or 5 days a week. I'll take them. But it's so you get in the trap. Same thing for the bike. Same thing for with racing. It's like you go too hard, you do it often, and going back to day-to-day feeling asleep. These are all ways to you have to allow your body to repair itself. You have to be patient with and and just respect your body because it's going to carry you through life, not just through triathlon, but through life. Like I see this all the time, and I've seen it in myself in the past that I will dig myself these massive holes, or I knew I should have pulled back because I was going too hard, I was going too often, and it makes me a worse person, a worse husband, a worse father, a worse friend, a worse coach, because you can only stretch yourself so much. But if you go so hard so often, you're not going to have the energy you need, and your body's not going to have the time to repair itself to be able to have the energy to be the things that you want to be outside of triathlon. So not just from a performance standpoint, from allowing your body to heal and do the slower aerobic work that's also needed to establish a really good chassis, really good durability. You can't just obsess about the engine, but the same thing goes for life. You have to give yourself time to rejuvenate. The guys that work 45, 50, 60 hours a week, have fun doing that. It's going to suck because you're going to burn out and your work is going to suffer. You can get this. That's why many people tell you can get so much more quality work in if you by working less, if you just get more sleep, pay attention to more details, use better time management, and do it the right way. So
Mm.
for a lot of people, going too hard too often is one of the biggest reasons that they're not seeing the performance gains they want to.
Yeah, this kind of ties into what I was thinking. One of the things you get from athletes a lot is that, and you've said it, where I'm getting slower, or I feel like I need to go harder or speed. But this accumulated fatigue thing, I've been thinking about that a lot lately because it's so hard to recognize when you're in the middle of it and you think you're getting slower and you want to prove to yourself that you can go faster. So it's always that. It's always something like, well, I feel like things are going pretty good, but I just don't see the speed that I want to see, on my tri-calc anymore. And it's just kind of fading away and whatever. So you'll push yourself out of that, but it's really hard to get a grip on how you're getting faster when you're not getting faster. you know, uh, in the middle of all this training and all the stuff that's happening in your body, and you talk about recovery from workout to workout, and then how you really heal and get faster when you sleep well and your body does all the work. But often it's very difficult to see that, and that this idea of going fast has always kind of mystified me a little bit. The more I learn about Ironman and long course stuff, because as we talked about, I mean, fast is so relative in these kind of events. If you can run a 1 mile at a 5:50 or 6 minute pace or something like that, I mean, that sort of plays in, I guess. But if you can't hold, 8 or 9 or 10 minute miles for the duration, oh, what's the point? I just think I always talk about too, and a lot of people will, have these little niggles or kind of things that bother them or whatever. And I always talk about running to heal them or riding to heal those kind of things, because if they're not injuries per se, but they're sort of triathlon, you know, things that come along with it, usually the pains and sorenesses and things of that nature, I think you're getting way more results out of going about it and training in a way that kind of actually tries to enhance and secure and strong and strengthen that area. And the way to do that is just to stay under control and not go too fast. Am I making any sense here? Because I think this idea of speed is just so overthought for sure. It's like you're right. It's like the prettiness of a fast engine or something like that, takes precedent. But if you put, these drag racers on a cross country journey, it's going to be a mess.
No, you make total sense, but speed is very relative too. But I think people have this obsession with speed that any kind of speed is going to make them faster, whether it's a quarter mile, half mile, or a mile, it's going to make you faster. And can it have benefits to making you faster? Sure, but it also depends on what is your definition, what is your goal with speed? Is it to travel 1 mile, 13 miles, 26 miles, 15 miles with speed? Because how you approach that looks so different. But it's also the rest and the recovery portion of that speed or that work to get said speed that's also important. You and again, like going back to like a parenting analogy, like if I see Hayden going really hard and doing, I'm like, dude, slow down, take a minute, let's take a breath, take a break. But we never say that to ourselves. We think, oh, well, we're going fast, we got to keep going. We have to keep going until we're so exhausted we can't move anymore. That's how we get better. But most everyone will tell you, and so many coaches and even scientific studies will tell you, you really don't want to get to the point to where you're so exhausted you can no longer go anymore, because at that point you've gone over the threshold of just adaptation and seeing the physiological changes you want to. Now you've basically just broken or traumatized your body in a way that's going to take a significant time to repair itself, and that time you're going to have to take to actually do that is going to negate any performance gains you had by the canceling out by the time you're now going to need to recuperate. Speed is so relative. Going hard too often, it's the things that we do, because it's also, if you look at, I think one of the things you were also saying was that it's something you feel like you can do now and you can do short that's going to see a massive benefit. I can head over the track, baby, and you see this in the pool all the time. Like, people waste so much time, but they feel like, or they can convince themselves or sell themselves on these massive improvements with such little time. Yeah, man, I went to hit the track today, and hit and really knocked out like a solid track session. I'm like, what did you do? Well, you were there for like 90 minutes. Well, we did a little warm up. We did like 10 minutes easy, and then we did some drills, and then we did 4x 400s on like 5-minute rest. And I'm like, okay, well then what you? Well, that was about it. I'm like, so you got in like 2.5 miles of running. Yeah, but I got my speed work in, man. I got my speed. I'm like, okay.
Come on.
But so and people in the pool, like, hey, how was your pool? People you see all the time, they get in the lane next to you, and you're like, dude, you've been here for 2 hours, and you've probably swam a 500. You've had more conversations today in this pool session than Oprah's had in the last 3 years on TV. That's how long and how much time you're wasting. But people, again, we like to convince ourselves that shortcuts via how I'm translating effort and intention to results, that's how we like to look at things. Oh, well, maybe my time was better spent actually running for an hour and 20 minutes, or just an hour, and then doing something different. So again, that's relative, probably this topic for a different day, but going too hard too often and beating yourself up and digging yourself holes you can't get out of is just another one of the ways people, again, mistreat their bodies, going back to day-to-day fueling and sleep, that are one of the other reasons why you're not seeing the performance gains that you're seeing. And the fourth one, which I almost jumped
Wait,
ahead
wait.
on. Sorry.
Before you go, you said something I just
I'm
want to
not going
repeat.
anywhere.
Go on to the next one. You said something I want to repeat because I think it's really important. You said too many people go over their adaptive threshold too often.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, I mean, that just stuck out to me as something that really could be kind of a game changer thought. Because you're going too far you can't catch up with your healing or, recovery.
Right. It's like if I tell you to go out and you're never going to do this, or you have rarely done it. But if I tell you to go out for a 2-hour run, a lot of athletes, like, legit thinking is, well, then 2.5's better. But
Oh, yeah.
it's not. Like, again, like, it's about minimal effective dose. It's about tapping into your system to get a response, not tearing it down through some traumatic event to where it's going to take you days and weeks to recover. It's all about and again, that's what coaching is. It's about load management. You want to give a person a load and amount they can respond positively to. You don't get points for putting an athlete on the floor and making them throw up, and you got him today, man. You really got him. No, you know what you should feel? You should feel shitty for that as a coach. If that's the way that you approach putting your athletes, putting them in the hurt locker and really making them dig a hole, and they just couldn't if they can't complete your sessions, then you're wrong. If your athletes can't complete the sessions at least 95 to 100% of the way, or complete it, or the way you've designed it, that's not on them. That's on you, because you're the one that programmed things to be appropriately challenging. And again, should you occasionally really push athletes to challenge themselves in a way they're not usually comfortable with, sure, but not for the sake of their own health and long-term success, not to just teach them a lesson or to break them. Like so many coaches have that like mentality of I'm going to show them through the training that they've got to, be hard, to work hard and be hard. You got to train hard. Yeah, well, that's a great way to get a very little out of an athlete over a short period of time and then nurse them back to health for the next 6 months. It's about load management. Sorry, quick tangent on that one.
That's good. No, I think
Yeah.
that's important. Load management. That's it. That's sleeping. It's sneaking into the NBA and all kinds of sports.
Load management. Fourth one, not listening to your body. And this is kind of, I think I can probably do 4 and 5 together. I had 4, not listening to your body, but instead listening to your ego and your feelings of inadequacy. This one kind of pairs up with number 5, which is not addressing niggles and pains. And I had rolling and addressing, stretching and doing all the mobility work, things you need to do. But we so like, and I've been guilty of this before for sure. I'm frankly having a hard time with it at the moment. I tweaked my ankle really good at run camp, and it didn't really bother me that I tweaked it again. About 2 weeks later on the trail, I stepped on a rock, same ankle, and so it's been really, really tender. And I did a fairly long trail run this last weekend, and then for about 2 days, it hurt to walk. And so I had to kind of have a conversation with myself. I was like, all right, if I want to think long term about the goals I have for the whole rest of the year, do I want to is my ego going to be the one that's going to talk me into running tomorrow, or is my objectivity and my long-term focus going to talk me into resting tomorrow? It's about who you give your daily microphone to that's going to basically run your day. Your ego, your feelings of I'm gonna lose fitness in 24 hours. It's gonna be gone. I'm never gonna have it again. I'm gonna have to start over. No, so many times if you don't listen to your body is going to get to a point to where it's not going to give you the opportunity to listen to it. It's going to break in a way or have such a major setback that you no longer have a choice. Like and so many athletes find themselves in these situations to where your mind, your heart, your decision making, you actually have the opportunity to stop, to rest, to take an easier day, to address a niggle with, mobility work or stretching or, strengthening it in a way or getting PT or addressing these things. But what often happens is, well, it's not that bad. Famous last words. It's not that bad. I can probably get through it, or I'll rest after the race. And then because at this point your mind can still control your body in a way to, all right, I can probably make this work. I'll just have to, rearrange things a little bit or do it a little bit easier. Your body is still letting you make that. But once you make that decision for a long enough period of time, your body, to protect itself, because I think sometimes we forget from a physiological standpoint, your body will do things to protect, for a lot of people, and especially triathletes that are type A, about making sure they get things in and chasing goals and chasing fitnesses. Your body will do things to protect itself, to heal itself. And for a lot of athletes, you get to a point to where I can just make it work, or I can ignore my body and ignore all the signs that basically life is telling me to take a break, to take a day off, to take 2 days off, to sleep more, to not push this. I'm congested. I'm just going to keep pushing through. And then at some point, your body basically says, you no longer have a voice in this conversation. I'm done. Through stress fractures, through really bad hamstring issue, whatever it is, through getting if the flu or getting really, really sick, coming down with things for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. I always tell athletes, once you get 100% or you feel you're 100%, wait another 24 hours and then come back. Most people try to come back way too early, and then that was one of the bigger takeaways I think a lot of athletes had. We had Starkey on our podcast. He was like, I think you asked him, like, what do you do when you get sick? And he was like, dude, I just sleep every day, all day, for as long as I can until I'm 100% back. I don't tempt fate. I don't do anything. I just sleep, and then it gets back. And so you look at it as, am I going to take a couple of days off, or am I going to take weeks off? And how's that going to do my performance? So listening to your body, or having someone, whether it's a coach or a training partner or for a lot of us, your spouse, to tell you to not be an idiot or to take a day off. More people need that to just get out of their own way.
Couldn't agree more. It's one of those things though, like the niggles and pains and stuff like that. You Well, I just had a cold, right? So I went through this thing where, oh man, I got a cold, and I started doing my little tricks after I got started, but it was too late, you know. So I think it's one of those things with niggles and pains and tight hamstrings and tight uh, hips and whatever, the rolling part and the flexibility and the mobility stuff, that has to start now. I don't care where you're at. If you're not doing it, you need to probably start doing it because it's preventative. It's one of those things where you keep doing it and it's hard to recognize, but you're in a way better place. You're still going to have similar, feelings probably and tightness, but it won't be as pronounced. It'll just be a different one. You'll be at a different level. So it's one of those, it's so hard to do preventative maintenance. If you're not bothered by something, if something's not bothering you, but you know that it usually does later on, maybe in the season when your volume increases. I just think it's like one of those things where I just really trying to get in the habit of doing these. A big one for me is just this simple cycle of run warm-ups that really helps. But it's hard to see a lot of times, and you know what I mean? Like, because if you're not bothered, you don't notice it as much. It's almost like a referee. If they're doing a good job, you don't notice them. But you notice it when it starts to hurt, and then it's like you scramble. Oh, I got to start doing this. I got to start doing, and then it hurts, and then it's worse. So it's kind of an interesting thing because you really, me. I'm really about paying attention to my body, and I always have been, and I train by feel to the 100% almost, and I just think about that stuff. Like if I feel something coming down, I kind of like try to do something. Another thing I think about a lot is if something's going on, I'm like, okay, something's out of balance. So I start thinking about, okay, how do I correct that? One of my little things, and when I'm running, my right leg is always stronger. So I just subconsciously I think about leading and counting or whatever I want to call it with my opposite foot. And I do that in the pool too with my weak arm. I try to think of that as the lead arm. And that's all really about a slow way to create a better balance in my body because I think that's really where a lot of injury comes out is when we overuse certain, you know, muscles on one side versus the other.
It's
If I'm
the no, I mean, I think it's when you're doing things like in the injury prevention or mobility or run warm-ups or anything that you feel like you need to do to execute a workout and stave off any kind of injury or niggle or to mitigate uh, the chances of one of those happening, the more you can do that, the better. Because for most of us, when you do something, you should never be reminded of the fact that you're not doing it. Most of it, oh, well, I can just probably, I'm not in any pain. My run's going great. I don't think I need to do these anymore. And then you skip it twice and you're like, okay, that's why I was doing those because, we forget what got us to where we are. We're always looking for a reason to chip away from doing the things that we feel like are required. Like again, just going back to details, I can probably get away with 6 hours of sleep. You know what? I'm a 6 hours sleep guy. I mean, I just always been that way. I can just really, I can function well and do the things on 6 hours. So you're telling me you'd be worse at all the things you do in life by being an 8 hour guy? No. That's just we always look for ways to do less or pay attention to less. I've just always been able to really, do everything I need to do, on 4 hours of sleep. Okay, you've convinced yourself of that reality, so now it is, but you won't ever know what it's like or what you can accomplish to do things on 8 hours of sleep. And so the same thing with injury prevention and listening to your body. It's, oh, I'm always injury prone. Well, is it because you're training the wrong way, you're running too hard too often, or because you know what to do, you're just not doing it? So a lot of it is just again paying attention to the details, listening to your body. Like I don't, do you want tough athletes? I want tough mental athletes. I don't want athletes. I just don't. Didn't want to skip today because I just didn't want to think, you to think that I wasn't tough. I want mentally strong and I want smart athletes. And being stubborn doesn't make you tough. It just makes you stubborn. And so many athletes get themselves in so much trouble that have longer periods of time because they're just flat out too stubborn. And you want athletes that are smart. Coaches love smart athletes because Going back to a stat we've given on so many podcasts is that, one of the greatest predictors of reaching your goals of performance is being available to train. And athletes that are able to do over 85 or 90% of all their prescribed training sessions are, I think, 7 or 8 times more likely to reach their goals. So do you want an athlete that's tough, that's mentally tough, or will never give in, that's going to continuously dig themselves holes and train when they shouldn't train and overdo it when they're already feeling niggle? No, because you know what? They're going to have to hang up their shoes so many times because they keep getting hurt, they keep getting sick, that they're never going to put a period of time in place or a training block in or be consistent enough to where they can see the gains they want to see. You want athletes that are smart. So like one of the biggest things I'll tell you, I think I just didn't really feel good today. You know, I didn't have it, or I've got this bug. Like one of my, like 9 out of 10 times, what I'm gonna tell them is to, in all caps, sleep. Not, dude, you gotta tough it out, man. We're almost at this block. You gotta tough it out. Just be the guy, crush it, beat yesterday. Just get the hell out of here. No, sleep. Sleep as much as you can. Take tomorrow off, and then let's reassess. It's about being smart. It's not playing hero ball every single day, trying to make today. It's about the long term. It's about where you can be, over the course of the next weeks and months and the whole year. It's about where you want to be at the end. It's not about giving in to that short term ego or those feelings of inadequacy that I have to feed by just doing it today. Because if I don't, then I don't have anything left. That's a relationship thing. That's a relationship thing you have with your training and the perspective you have. So that's another another thing to address for a different day. But that is one of the ones. And the last one, unless you have something else to add on that,
No, I'm looking forward to
I
this
didn't
one.
want to overstep. The last one, yeah, why? Because it's the last one.
No, I'm
The
on the edge of my seat.
No, the last one
I don't know.
is
I really don't
the
know.
the last one is you are obsessed with longer, and you ignore the what is oftentimes the needed development of speed and strength. And this has become
Huh.
like the bane of what I think so many triathletes, or the cycle that so many triathletes find themselves in, is that they have to do an Ironman because it's the only way they know to be involved in the sport, because they did one their first year, they did one in year two, or it was their, for some people it was their first triathlon or their second. So they don't know what it's like or can't fathom a reality that is development and what you need to get faster. So then they basically trudge along for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years, just going through the same Ironman training cycle. We might see a little bit of improvement, sure. But if you don't take the time, you don't spend the time to work on speed, to work on strength, then you're never, ever, ever, let me get this point across. You're never, ever going to meet your full potential. If you always do long all the time, or you go long 2 or 3 times a year, and you never take the appropriate time off to get faster and stronger, because those are things you need to be equipped with to carry yourself faster over longer distances. And but we, again, like, people have this, if I'm not doing an Ironman, I'm just not racing this year. But if you really want to develop yourself as an athlete, be more well-rounded, be able to do different things. I'm not really a short course guy. I don't have that. I don't have that trigger. I don't have those, I only have 87 fast twitch muscles. I need like 103. Okay, sure. No, you just have always done longer distance, so you've got to that point to where you don't think you can, because that's your own reality, so you've created it, or you haven't taken the time to do all the work because you do all this long and slow stuff 24/7 year round. Then you take 3 to 4 months off after your big Ironman race at the end of the year, and then you start back in March, and you're like, here I go again. I better start going long again. And then you can't understand why you keep being the same person within a 10 to 15 minute difference. Like, most athletes, and I'm not saying, if you want to do an Ironman, you're fine. That's your prerogative. That's your goal. Have at it. Go for it. A lot of athletes are that way. I train quite a few that have that mentality. But if you really, really want to get faster, then at least give yourself 12 to 16 months, if not more, in between one. Like, great. Do an early season, like say you're doing Ironman Texas. Great, do it. have a great base, and then don't, in Texas 2020, so this year, and then your next one's Ironman Chattanooga in 2021. You got like 17 months in between. That's still one every year, but that's a cycle of I can unload and really, really go hard and go fast and really get durable and create a lot of speed and a lot of strength to go faster the next year, even though it's later. Like you can look at it that way. I think that's actually a great way to look at it. But you if you want to see a lot of improvement, you want to cover distances faster, you have to at least give yourself the time to do that and develop, instead of always trying to be rushed to do the distance just because that's what you've always done.
Hmm. Well, if I make quote Rich Roll here, let's unpack this a little bit.
Well
Just a
done.
little, because I feel like earlier I was saying I was kind of contradicting this a little bit with the speed talk, or the I don't understand the speed talk, but what you're trying to say is there is room for working on skills versus, I guess, endurance or something like that, or
Like,
just
listen, man, speed is so relative to what it's like, what weapon do you need? Or what weapon, not do you deserve, but what weapons or tools should you be focusing on? If you're an Ironman athlete that travels a certain pace, or has very little time to do X amount of volume, or hasn't expanded their aerobic range wide enough to actually make speed work even beneficial, then you need to work on different things. But if you've expanded your aerobic zone far and long enough and you have become durable enough, well, now, and we know you can get from point A to point B with relative quickness, well, now we can work on making that quicker, or make that quickness faster. It's all about the individual athlete, but so many people just ignore it. They ignore it because they want to go long all the time. I'm not saying speed work is pointless, because our athletes do speed work. I'm saying it's where it fits in the puzzle and the toolbox of what you're trying to execute and do on race day. Like, like I think everyone has a different definition of speed. Speed work. I consider hill repeats speed and strength work. Some people think only speed work is stuff on the track, or it's only mile repeats. It's like, but it's what tools do you have access to that you can actually use? Because most athletes who are who have a very limited aerobic base, who are traveling a certain speed and are going to likely hit a certain time threshold for long distance racing, you're basically trying to work on a tool you're never going to use on race day. And that might sound harsh, that might be a bummer or a buzzkill, but it's true. It's like it's like working on creating a razor blade when your job is to go chop down a tree. Oh, but I gotta have that sharp. I gotta have that razor blade, baby. Yeah, in case you get to the very, very top, or you use your axe and your hacksaw long enough to get to where you have this little bit of limb left to cut down with your razor blade. It's yeah. In order to use that speed, you got to get to mile 20, 22, and then keep it. Not like I seriously would love to know how many athletes do speed work or track workout weekly and then walk the back half of the marathon, and tell me what their time used, whereas they should be using the rest of their time. So I'm not saying speed work is bad. It's a lot of great to become. It's about knowing the athlete and what's going to benefit them greater, and are they even topping off any kind of an engine, or are they just working on a part of it that looks good or feels good in the moment. It's about knowing who you are, what kind of athlete you are, and then what your goals are and where you want to go with them, and then prioritizing that as the season goes and as hopefully the athlete's life cycle goes. And that's part of it. Like, so yeah, speed's important, but it shouldn't be something that you throw everything else to the wind just because you feel like you have to have speed work. Again, like,
mm,
show me. Maybe I'll poll people at Texas, is like people that are walk the back half of the marathon. How many track Tuesdays did you do? And how do you feel like those are going right now and benefiting you right now? Like, there's so many other things that I know aren't sexy, and I know they're not flashy, and this may be like a really hard conversation. I'm sure I'll get some hate mail and a 1-star review, but it's true. If you can't use it, you lose it. And you've lost and wasted all that time you did before by not running enough, by being obsessed with only running 3 days a week and expecting to get significantly better, because one of those days you got faster. I've been doing 15-mile weeks, baby, but one of them is track Tuesday. I'm going to crush this marathon.
the way I think of speed work, man, is like I really think about it in terms of kind of getting a grip on having a more finesse on my gas pedal, where if I have an engine that'll go 150 miles an hour, I can't go that fast very often, or my engine's going to probably blow. So I'll be, if the speed limit's 80, just play around with 100, that kind of stuff. And I like what you say, speed work is all relative, and with every different person, I also think as somebody that's a little bit older, I have to be more careful with it because I mean, yeah, it's one thing I can go all out, but man, I can tell almost immediately when I do something like that. It's like, oh, unless as you mentioned, there's a really good thing like running up hills hard is like the thing for me because it definitely gasses me and it builds I feel like my overall frame, but it doesn't make me feel brittle or that I don't know if you know what like that
I know
feeling
what you
you
mean.
get.
Yeah.
It's like if you do a bunch of track work or what, you kind of feel like your body is like, whoa, what was that? But it's sort of like that good sore versus the bad sore in my mind, or that good sore versus bad pain. And that's why I'm just so careful about speed work, and I just use it in terms of um, going faster and not
It's the
as
icing.
fast as I
It's
can.
the icing. It's not the cake. And I mean, I know a ton of athletes who do speed work, and they hit the track once a week. But I also know they have a gigantic running base of the last 15 or 20 years, or they ran
Yeah,
collegiately, or they were like you can't just look at someone and say, well, so and so does track work, so that's going to work for me. Well, how many miles do you run a week? Around 10 to 12. Well, I'm doing 70.3. Okay, that's not going to cut it. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you're not. I'm not gonna say you're wasting your time, but you're not allocating your time appropriately. You are thinking about creating a car that's going to drive cross country in the most efficient, durable way possible from North Carolina to California. And if you haven't developed an engine and a chassis in a car that can do that without breaking down, with being able to do it the whole way, without hitting pit stops, without needing maintenance every 500 miles, and once you can do that, well, then worry about getting coast to coast faster. And see, let's see now how I can get, and that's track work. But what most people do is, all right, well, I'm trying to get from North Carolina, and I can probably only make it to Tennessee without having to stop for a couple of days. But you know what? I'm going to work on track work just to get me to the state line faster. Oh, well, now you have, 2,000 more miles to go. Now what's going to happen? Well, I'll probably got to put in neutral and hope I get a few hills and roll down. Like, that's just, again, there's a place for it. I'm not hating on it because we do plenty of it. But there's a time and a place, just like everything else, to incorporate it to make sure you're maximizing and allocating your time because your time is precious and should be used wisely. This was a long cast. I apologize for that. Was it? No, it's about an hour. Just feels like a long time.
yeah. No, we're right on target.
Right on target. Hey,
Zone three.
that was my last one. Zone three, man. I was zone two for today, but I had a lot of zone four, zone five moments. Phew, yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it
I
up.
think it was
Thanks.
good. I think there's a lot of good
Yeah.
stuff in there. If you're still listening, thank you. We're quickly approaching 2 million downloads. Not
2
really.
million downloads.
I'm kidding. Excuse me?
Yeah, we're about 3 million though right now. Is that right?
Yeah, no. Yeah, we just hit 1 million a few days ago, and we're right on the track here. We're
right on
doing
track for
speed
2
work.
million. As long as we, it's right.
Download track work.
Download track work. But hey, as always, we appreciate you tuning in and giving us an opportunity. If you haven't been and want to join, we have a awesome closed Facebook group called Crushing Iron Group. You can hop on Facebook, search that, answer one simple question. We'll let you in. A lot of great conversations, a lot of great feedback, a lot of great input and wisdom within that community. Athletes of all ranges, from amateurs to professionals, are in there. So hop in, introduce yourself, or Mike will do it for you, and we'll get you in there. If you haven't visited or need to go back, you can always visit our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and our fantastic community. If you need anything from Mike, his email is crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me directly, c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, man. I appreciate the topic.
Hey,
It's good stuff.
always. And we'll meditate on yours on Monday.
Yeah, I'll send you over some notes.
Sounds good to me, man.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.
See you, dude.